500 acres. So it's a big one. It was built on the basically the old Willow Run bomber plant. So if you're familiar with this area at all, that was what was here. When they decided to decommission the plant after a variety of different owners, the thought was to put it back into production for the future. And what was the future in this area? Well, autonomous and electric vehicles. So that's what we test out here. Now, as I said, the course is 500 acres. We will not be seeing 500 acres on this particular trip. We'll be seeing sort of a small bit. To your right there, you'll see sort of our open area. If you have some testing that you need to do in an area that doesn't necessarily have a lot going on in terms of lines, you have a nice little straightaway there where you can test out right in front of the lights, do some maneuvers. We actually do have a car on the course out there. I don't know if you're allowed to see it, so everybody don't look at it real hard. One of the things that is interesting about this course is all the cool confidential technology we have here. If there's a company that you've heard of that makes cars, they probably tested here, but I can't tell you all of them. But what we have had in terms of major announcements recently is our deal with Daimler. They have been added on to, as one of our partners, actually Daimler Trucks North America, which has now been recently split off as its own entity. They gave us this beautiful bus, and in addition, they built the off-road test track that you're going to see coming up on the right-hand side here. This is where we display and test our big trucks, basically. Daimler Trucks, Western Star, Freightliner. They do a lot of exciting displays and things like that over there. It is a rigorous course with basically rocky paths, and we have big telephone poles buried in the ground, and hills and tight turns. And if you're in a nice big Western Star truck, it's going to put you through the ringer here. And that is its job. Yeah, that's been one of our really exciting deals recently, and I would definitely stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be having pretty much announcement after announcement of major deals. It's a pretty exciting place to be. I've argued for a while that if you got on a real tall step stool, you could probably see what was going on. But we have, you know, people play nice around here. People are all being closely watched. You'll notice there's cameras pretty much everywhere around here. That is both for testing purposes and for security. The cutting edge of technology is right here. Now, another thing you might notice about the roadway is it is rough. And it's for two reasons. One, that's real cars going around underneath us. We are headed over, we're right over Michigan Ave right now. This originally was a part of the roadway here, and it was brought in as a part of the American Center for Mobility. Now, could we fix it up and make it perfect? Sure. That's not what we're testing for here. If you go to a proper proving ground, what you're going to see is perfectly smooth roads and everything, you know, specifically to MDOT standards. But here, you're getting the real thing. You're getting real roads. They're rough. They're bumpy when there's snow on them. We clear some of it off. Some of it we leave. Sometimes we'll create snow drifts and things like that. All for the purposes of making sure that we're creating a realistic environment for our testing. Here you have nice little parking spaces and things like that. You know, my car, and I think a lot of them now will do autonomous parallel parking and things like that. Those early levels of autonomous are out in the market already, but we still get testing for the parking features and things like that. And in addition to the test track we have here, we actually with a partnership with Ford and Bedrock, began testing at our Detroit Smart Parking Lab, which is in downtown Detroit, where we have a full parking garage all for autonomous parking technology. So we got a little bit of that here, but I'm going to imagine that in the near future, the lion's share of that is going to be down over there in Detroit. Are we going to hit the tunnel?
Yeah, I'm going to hit the tunnel as soon as we get off here.
So a lot of what you don't see here is all the technology embedded everywhere else. So we have 100 gig down internet speed here, which is just unfathomable. I still remember when I started here, I downloaded Photoshop and it just downloaded like a picture. It was wild. But that's because a lot of the future of this technology isn't just autonomous, but it's connected and autonomous. So is about making sure that not only can these cars, you know, see the road and behave properly, but they need to talk to each other, and they need to be able to make decisions as a group. A lot of the poles you'll see around here are all about sort of facilitating that connected autonomous technology. So yeah, we got a nice little straightaway here, and you know, frequently you'll see cars up and down this route. In addition to just the plain track itself, we also have a variety of different, let's say, obstacles for the cars to run into. None of them are obviously out on the track right now, but we have fake cars, fake people, fake animals, the whole nine, all for the purposes of making sure that these can test avoiding different things safely. But in addition to the actual physical props we have, like our cones here and all of our neat little things like that, we also can add digital obstacles as well. So if you're not testing the cameras on a car, really you can get away with adding sort of digital obstacles. So can the you know, car respond to a deer it thinks it sees? You know, we can implement all of these sort of digital obstacles for the purposes of testing out a variety of different systems without sort of, you know, putting extra wear and tear on our prop vehicles and our test vehicles, and also to create obstacles that are hard to replicate. I mean, I can throw a fake deer out on here any day of the week, but a deer doesn't behave like a mannequin you just threw out in the middle of the road. Deer behaves like a deer, and what we can do is now we can basically convince a car, for all intents and purposes, that there is such a deer out on the road, and see how well it responds to those kind of threats. Not something you see at most test tracks, and we're fortunate to have it here, and that also allows us for sort of kind of unique testing scenarios that aren't available at most tracks. You'll see here too, you have pretty much all this kind of standard signage up that you'd see on a real road. That is one of the last vestiges of the plant that used to be here, actually. A little bit of history there. The old hydromatic sign and kind of little bits and pieces left over. Over there you see those shipping containers, and those aren't just for looks. Those are actually where we'll do urban testing, and we'll lay out those shipping containers as necessary for the purposes of seeing how the cars handle in very tight environments. Also, those shipping containers have a way of blocking signals as well, so we can use those for the purposes of sort of putting connected technology in the test too. But we can more or less configure those however we want. We had those set up for Daimler recently, how they wanted them, and you know, based on the needs, we kind of move them around and set things up. We also, right over on the side there, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of our cooling stations, right? That's correct. Yeah, so we use those devices, and we can get those cars down to, I believe, was it -20 or -40 for the purposes of testing, because this technology has to work in real-world conditions. So, actually, a good friend of mine, Jim, who I know quite well, helped work on those things for the purposes of cooling down these cars and making sure that they can work even in the most hazardous of conditions.
ACM
2 are entering a 3-wheeler.
Copy that.
Chips. So we have a partnership with Ford, well, they need some space for the Broncos to sit, so there we go. Now all 500 acres of the course, not all of it are developed. You'll see some open space that we still have some designs on for future testing. But one of the goals early on was not to attempt to build it out immediately. They could have thrown, you know, hundreds of millions more dollars into building more track from the get-go. But we need to kind of follow the market and figure out what people need before we start building. And one of the things we're actually going to be doing here this month is a major industry survey to see, okay, what do you want next? What we have currently is filling up real quick, but before we build more, we need to know what the industry needs. So we're going to do some polling and make sure that we can give them what they need. What to head into here is our tunnel, and that tests a couple of different things. One, just darkness. Don't have lights on, see how the car does in the dark. The other thing is, if you notice, you can't actually see the end of the tunnel when you enter it. So how does it respond to those sort of environments? And the other aspect fact is that we are underground right now, and we're not going to get cell phone signal down here. It's a complete dead zone by design. So, if you're dealing with a connected autonomous car, how well does it deal with going off the grid for a second?